Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. The Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Dr. Marisol. I'm going to let her pronounce her last name. Marisol is no stranger to toxic relationships, and many of us have had in our home, our work environments, and our romantic lives. It is no surprise that she is now a teacher in the arena of leadership. She is here to share her story and talk about the importance of mindset and standing confidently in your skin. Welcome, lady. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing so great. Thank you for having me here.
Yes, so tell us where you're from first.
Okay, so I'm from the Dominican Republic. I live in Miami, so I'm here in the United States, but I'm Dominican and also, American, so I'm Dominican American. I was born in the DR, and I was there. I grew up there, and then I came to Miami when I was 16.
I love it.
Very interesting story.
I love it. And then how do we pronounce your name correctly?
So correctly, it's Capellan.
Capellan.
Capellan. So you will pronounce it like if the two L's were a J.
Capellan. Oh, okay.
Yes. So I had to teach my husband how to pronounce it because he's American. And I'm like, how do I teach him? And I was like, think of a J.
I love it.
That's what it is. Yes.
I love it. Well, I'm so excited to have you here and for you to be able to share some of your story, some of your journey, some of what you're doing now. I know that you're working on so many things. You actually caught my attention. I reached out to you cold because of an awesome article that I read that you had written about women being pet to
threat.
Pet to threat. Brilliant.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely brilliant. I read it. I was like, I have to have this woman on my podcast. I reached out to you cold. You're the sweetest, most gracious woman.
Oh,
I so
thank you.
Appreciated you giving me some of your time and some of your thoughts on like what's going on within, culture, within females and where you are at now. Mm-hmm. And I know you were kind of like jiving. You were kind of like doing some research and doing some stuff. So I'm really excited to kind of see where you are now because it's been a second since we talked.
It's been a second. So yes, I wrote that article because in my LinkedIn account, I have a Woman in Leadership newsletter, right? And what I usually do is I try to read and research and ask and interview people about women in society, women in the workplace specifically, right? Yeah. So when I did my doctorate degree is in education, and my dissertation was about the trajectory of to leadership positions, the woman's trajectory to leadership position. So how do women start their career and then rise up to an executive level position? And it's very interesting because women have very unique challenges. Yeah. When I was doing my interviews and I was doing the literature review, I read things related to gender bias, the motherhood penalty, other, terms that have been coined by other researchers that you have to read about them and make sure that you really know what you're writing about. Yeah. So I'm reading through all of these things. And one of the things that I saw that caught my attention was the term pet to threat. And that basically shows that Black women specifically have very unique challenges in the workplace. These scientists did a study, and she basically found that, women, Black women specifically, they're treated as a pet at the beginning sometimes in the workplace, meaning they are, treated in a childlike manner sometimes, where, they're being taken care of kind of in the public, or they're portrayed, the company portrays that they're taking care of them. But then as the Black woman starts rising up or gaining confidence, all of a sudden she becomes a threat. And even the people that used to promote the women, or Black women specifically, they start, turning their backs on Black women, and they face a lot of challenges from the same people that helped them at the beginning. So it was a very interesting study. So I started reading about that and reading about experiences. I went through some experiences like that too, and I just thought, we have to raise awareness about the unique challenges that we face.
Yeah.
Women, Black women, Latinas, Afro Latinas, they also go through unique challenges. That's not saying that, that everything is negative in the workplace. It's just that if we want to create an equitable workforce where people feel that they belong, where they feel like they matter, that their opinions are being heard, we should take into consideration what really happens in the workplace and what experiences do minorities actually have, so that we can make changes and make sure that we are fostering a climate that is inclusive.
Absolutely. Definitely. So speaking of your challenges and the things that you've gone through, I'd like to just ask, in the journey that you've been through in your life, from small to where you are now, what do you think has been your biggest challenge that
So
you've gone through?
I saw the question, and when I saw the question, I was like, "Oh my gosh, am I gonna go personal on this or
Mhm.
professionally?" Because in every facet of your life, you have like different challenges,
Yeah.
and some challenges are unique, and some of those challenges are very hard. Like you can have a very hard challenge in your personal life and a very hard challenge in your professional life. But I think I will use one that gave me one of the greatest lessons, I guess, in life, so that we can, learn from those lessons. So one of the challenges that I faced, I think it was in my personal life, was letting go of what society told me that I had to be.
Okay.
I think that's what's one of the biggest challenges. So how that manifests itself in your regular life, it depends. So it may be your parents telling you that you have to go through a certain degree, or that you have to become this type of woman, that you have to marry somebody in order for you to be worth it, right? Or in your professional life, that can be, taking promotions or taking opportunities that don't align with your values and your goals. So whatever that was, I think that having that constant reminder of like, let me choose, let me put myself first, and let's make sure that I'm doing what I want to do because I want to be fulfilled. I think that has been the biggest challenge, because I think a lot of people live their day to day into like, this is how the system is and this is how things should be, and then we just have to like fit in into the system. And then not a lot of people are out there saying, well, this, how come this is this way? Why don't we question it? And is this what we really want to do with our lives? So I guess, did I answer your question?
Yeah. So can you tell us like one of the big ones? Like what was one of the, stereotypical things that you had to kind of leave behind?
So stereotypical thing that I had to leave behind. I would say, I'm trying to think. So one thing that happened that I thought it was very interesting was when I let my curly hair back out. So I remember when we were having, the Black Lives Matter movement, and we were embracing our roots and everything else. I thought to myself, why don't I have my curly hair? Like, I love my curly hair, and it's so funny because I don't have my curly hair right now as I'm speaking to you, but I had it yesterday, believe me. But I just started like, even it's so, it can happen even in the way that you're dressed, or the things that you choose to portray, or the relationships that you have, is that sometimes we're just doing things out of habit, right? And then we don't embrace like what's naturally ours, what we really like. And I think that was like one of the biggest lessons, that I started questioning everything. It was like, why don't I wear the hair however I wanted to wear it? Why don't I go to these places? Why don't I do this hobby that I always say that I wanted to do? So I think that when you start working in one thing, you start realizing what other things you're doing out of habit. And then you have to challenge yourself into like, questioning why you do certain things in your life. And if you're not happy with certain decisions that you made, then start changing them one by one.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
How did you wear your hair previously?
So previously, I used to wear, the straight hair. I used to wear straight hair most of the time. But, growing up as an Afro Latina, I'm from the Dominican Republic, the way that you look put together is with straight hair, right? That's how I grew up, and that's how they will tell me that's the way that you should be, look professional, and this is the way that you should present yourself in order for you to be taken seriously, right? So embracing my natural hair was kind of like out of the picture, right? Because you go to salons and they don't even know how to deal with your natural hair. Like in 2022, there's still salons out there that don't know how to style a curly hair. So for me, I had to like learn how to take care of my curly hair and like start showing up another way. So I think that was like a very interesting moment in my life. I tend to analyze and go deep into the mindset. That's what I do. That's what I work. I do work on leadership, but I also work on mindset. So I always go into limiting beliefs, conditioning, programming that we have had in our lives and how that leads to, the certain lifestyle and the quality of life that we are living.
Yeah. So there's people all over the place, women and men who are not leading or living up to their like authentic self of who they actually want to be. So to kind of like combine that with your hair, which is a very simple analogy that anybody can understand, that when you're transitioning, just so that we can kind of
merge it.
When you're transitioning from what you've always known, what you've always done, what you've always been taught to something totally different, what are the steps like mentally that you're taking? Do you take baby steps in it? Do you put it up? Do you wear it down? Do you just go in full fling?
Okay.
How do you do it specifically?
There's not a lot of people have hair, right? Let's put this analogy with something that happens in our daily life, right?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so that's good. So every time I always try to do a self analogy every week or every month, right? About the things that I'm doing with my life currently. And I think that this is something that we should all do. These are some of the exercises that we usually do at the end of the year before New Year's. We try to put together like the things that we want to do, and we want to complete like 12 goals, but sometimes we only complete 3 of them, right? Because this is not how you set your goals. It's not a one-time thing. It's a consistency. You have to do it every single day. So anyway, so I would say that every month, you need to analyze like what you're dedicating your time, like what are the things that you're doing, right? And then start asking yourself whether those things that you're currently doing with your life, are those things giving you joy? Are you feeling like you're living your life to the best? Do you feel like you're being your best self? Do you feel excited? Do you feel, are you feeling like you're living? Like, sometimes you talk to people and they tell you like, I feel like I'm just existing, right? Yeah. And I'm like, are you doing something that really speaks to you? As an example of this is, society may tell us that because we are a certain age or because we're a certain ethnicity or because we're certain something, that we cannot do certain things, right? I went and took my son to learn how to ice skate. I went, they were all kids, and he wanted to learn how to play ice skating. And then at one point I said, well, I've never done it. I grew up in the Caribbean. Wouldn't it be fun for me to learn how to do that? And then the programming comes in telling you, well, are you sure you should be doing this? Well, why don't you look ridiculous if you're an adult trying to learn ice skating? And then I said to myself, well, how will I feel trying something new? Yeah. Will I feel great? And will I feel proud of myself that I went and did it? And if the answer is yes, that in the future, I'm going to feel very proud of myself, or in the present about doing this thing, why I shouldn't listen to any other voice, right? So I feel that you have to take baby steps. You have to First, analyze what you're doing. Let's say for you, like take an inventory of your life. Like, do you like your work? Do you like your relationships? Do you like how you manage your time? Do you like your health? Like, start looking at all of these containers. I call it life containers. And you have to audit them. Like, you cannot just live your life based on programming, based on habits that we have been cultivating for a long time. You have to really dive deep into why are you doing the things that you're doing. So I always say audit your life and then look for exciting things that you can do in each category. So, for example, this of me learning how to skate, that was in the hobby category, right? I think about, have I had a hobby that really excites me in the last 2 or 3 years? Like, if that's not the case, like, why, like, I should go and do something that really excites me. And if I'm doing something because when I was 10 years ago, I thought it was a great hobby, maybe it's not a great hobby for me right now at this stage in my life. So
Yeah.
sometimes we just do things out of habit and you
Yeah.
just have to question yourself.
Yeah. Definitely. When you are auditing your life, what does that look like?
When you're auditing your life, I would say you will look at a part of your life and you will ask yourself, what will make this part of my life 100%? Like, if I could have a magic wand and I could decide right now that this part of my life, let's say meal planning, right? Or health, healthy lifestyle, or you want to become a public speaker, whatever that is, whatever goal you have, or you want to become an entrepreneur, you want to launch your podcast, whatever that is, you have to ask yourself, what will make this area or this goal 100%? Let's say for somebody, let's say if it's something about eating healthy, you may say, for me, 100% will be that 5 days out of 7, I'm eating vegetables, whatever that is. But what's 100%? And then if that's 100%, you have to be realistic with yourself and then say, am I meeting those 5 meals a week? What did I eat last week? So maybe I didn't meet those 5. So what can I do next week so that I can do the 5 and make sure that I'm meeting that goal? So I would say audit your life is basically, you have to start with what you want in that area of your life and then reverse engineer. You have to go back and say, what am I doing right now? And then how can I close the gap?
Beautiful. I love that. How long have you been doing that?
Oh, I've been doing that since I started in the personal development journey. I became a coach. I'm a certified professional coach. And I became a coach because I really like doing personal transformations. I do a lot of personal transformation in myself, with myself and with the people around me, and I enjoy my work. So I started doing this personal development work after going through depression at one point. And my husband, we went to Barnes and Noble, and I'm like looking for a book to read. I'm going through like a very challenging time in my life. And he just picks up a book, like a personal development book. I think at that time it was Tony Robbins' book. And he's like, you should read about personal development. So I started reading about coaching. I started reading about transforming your life. I started reading about leadership, self-leadership. That's why I enjoy teaching leadership and how to lead your life from within and with authenticity. And the more I read books, the more I was like, okay, why I love this intentionality that you can have with your life. So I just like that work. I mean, I love the idea of living with intention and making sure that what you're doing in your life aligns with your values and with your future self, how people call it.
Yeah, definitely. When you think about just life in general and how we're kind of navigating through life, we have our, like you were saying, there's different areas. We have our health, we have our relationships, we have our career. When we're putting all of that together, into one basket, let's say, what would you say is the meaning of it? What is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life. Oh, wow. That's a deep question. I think the meaning of life is to be lived, to be lived. Like, you have to live your life. I think that's the meaning. If I were to get all of this into one meaning, it will be is that you're supposed to live your life. Like, you're supposed to not just exist. I mean, if you want to exist and that's how you live your life to the fullest, that's fine. Like, I feel like everybody has their own way of living their life to the best of their abilities or whatever they want. You have people that they feel very fulfilled by, being in the countryside and riding horses, or you have people that really feel like they're living their life by traveling, or you have people that feel very fulfilled in their life by having, work and a wholesome lifestyle, whatever that is. But I feel that whatever it is, you have to find out what is it that makes you feel alive. And I think that's the meaning of life. The meaning of life is figuring out what makes you feel alive and doing more of it. Like, if you feel like that, then keep doing it. Like, I feel that when you do those things and you feel happy about you living your life to the fullest, you're going to transmit that energy to your job, to your relationships. You're going to transmit that energy to the people that you meet, because you're so content.
Yeah.
With what you're doing. You feel fulfilled. So you're not seeking for fulfillment from other people. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think that we live our lives, or a lot of problems that we have in our relationships, is because we're looking for that fulfillment from another person, for that external validation. Like, I need somebody else to tell me that I'm worth it so I can feel worth it. But I feel that if we do all this work for us internally first, then what happens is you just have so much good energy and so much uh, wisdom to give, and so much your relationship. I just feel like it's a spillover effect. It will affect everything else. It will affect the way that you lead. I have coached executives from Fortune 500 companies. I've coached executives, and managers from Google, Salesforce, Warner Media. And every time I talk to any of my executives, I always talk about their personal life, because I'm like, if you're having so much stress at work, and I'm not saying that some jobs are not stressful. There's some jobs that are very stressful, but
Yeah.
how do you cope with stress, and how are you fulfilling your life? What are you doing that makes you feel at peace, so that when you come into your work environment, then you feel that peace within you, and you transmit that to the people that you're, that are, that are under your care.
What do you wish for?
What do I wish for? I wish for more humanity. I would say I wish for more of that.
What does that mean?
Uh, yeah, that means that we learn how to care for each other in a very deep way. That's we'll say something. That's something that I wish for.
Do you have that in your community?
In my community, so there are different communities. I think that in some communities I do feel that, in some communities sometimes I don't. And you have to figure out when you're going through life, um, what type of community makes you feel more accepted and like you belong and all of that, and then go from there.
How does a community make someone feel accepted?
How does that community? Yeah, I love your questions. Well, I think that somebody you feel accepted when you feel that your opinions are taken into account, or um, you matter as a person, regardless of the external things that you bring to the table, like regardless of status and control and money and power and all those things. You are a accepted human being just by being there. So you feel like you're worth. Your presence is valued. I would say, yeah, you feel like your presence is valued. Oh, I like that.
You have a story where you did not feel accepted.
Oh my gosh. That is a strong question. So, yes, it was a work story, which I'm going to write about in my book. So, I'm writing a book called Leadership is a Responsibility. And basically, that book highlights my own experience in academia, which was a very negative experience at the end. And it was, yeah, along those terms. It made me feel at the end like I wasn't valued, I wasn't accepted. And unfortunately, when I went out and I interviewed other women in the workplace, I saw that some of those women were having the same experiences that I was having. So I started to write a book. Basically, it was my way of like writing things down, because as things were happening, I was like, what did just happen? Because you go through certain situations in life. So I started writing the book. I started interviewing people, interviewing women and Afro Latinas about their experiences at work. And I started looking at the trends, and I was like, oh, that's exactly what I'm going through. So I started to write the book. I wrote a little bit about woman experiences in the workplace. I felt about how I felt excluded in that workplace. And then all of that is put together with some guides about becoming an inclusive leader, a responsible leader. But yes, it was in the workplace. I felt that, and people feel it in different ways. So some people feel in the workplace, some people may feel it elsewhere, but it does happen sometimes, not all the time. Yeah.
What did you do? Because a lot of people are in that situation. So
Mm-hmm.
what did you, I mean, obviously you're no longer there, so you eventually quit, or left or whatever happened, but how did you handle it while you were there?
So how I handled it while I was there, I would say that I looked for a lot of help. So I doubled down on the coaching. I doubled down on my own reading, meditation. I try to ask myself, well, is this something that, how do I want to show up for me while all of this is happening externally? Because that's something else that we have to understand, is that a lot of things are out of our control, but we can still decide how we're going to show up. Because at the end of the day, we're going to be looking back and say, well, I shouldn't have done this or shouldn't have done that. So I would say yes. So I looked at the external situation and said, well, I'm working into this environment that is so toxic. It makes me feel so bad. But regardless of that, how can I show up for myself and for other people?
Yeah.
People that were looking up to me at that point. And I looked for a lot of encouragement and support. And I think that helps a lot. I feel that when you're in a situation where you feel excluded or you feel like you're not accepted, you have to look for your support group. And fortunately, I had a very good support group. I mean, I developed a good support group while I was going through that. And I think that was very helpful.
Did you do that at work or outside, like friends outside?
It was a combination of both, because I was able to make very good friends at work when that was happening. And also, I was able to gain some friendships elsewhere. Not gain some friendship, but the friendships that I already had, they were very supportive of me. So you need to talk it out. You have to let people know. Sometimes things happen, and when you're having a good community, a great support group, I think that makes all the difference.
Yeah, I would agree with that, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give a quick shout out to those that are listening live. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. We appreciate that. For those of you that are up to this point and watching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so that we know where you found us and we can send you some love. But I would love to ask you, Marisol, what you do. What do you do for all the humans? Let us know
Oh,
about
yes.
the leadership thing that you do, and where
Yes.
people can find you if they want to connect.
Yeah, so they can find me on LinkedIn. Is my name, Dr. Marisol Capellan. I have two services going on right now. I'll say three. So the first one is I do immense or a very a combo of executive coaching. So that can be used for mindset, for leadership, or for a combination of both. I work with women and I help women lead with authenticity and up level their lives and their work or their professional lives. So that's one thing. The second thing that I'm doing is that I'm certifying other coaches. So if you want to get your certification, your coaching certification, I do have classes starting on August 22nd. And I'm currently doing the pre-sale of my book, Leadership is a Responsibility, that is going to be launched in January 2023.
Are you excited?
Yes, I'm so excited.
How many books have you authored?
So this is my second book. My first book was in Spanish and is a personal development challenge. So it's about finding yourself in 30 days. That I'm actually now I am editing and doing the second version of that. And this is my second book. This one is going to be in English. It's my first, well, I will say my second because my dissertation is kind of a book
Okay.
that I had to write for my doctorate degree. So maybe this will be my third book, but it's my first. I will say my second book out there is Leadership is a Responsibility.
Awesome. I love it. Are you excited about that?
Very excited.
What's the premise of it?
So the premise of it is the experiences of Black women and Afro Latinas in the workplace, and also guides and toolkits to become a more inclusive leader. I also have chapters that are dedicated specifically for women in the workplace. So challenges that women face from all races, and all backgrounds, but I have women in the workplace, Black women in the workplace, and Afro Latinas in the workplace, and then how to become a responsible and inclusive leader to make sure that these minorities can thrive in the workplace.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you a question on that. Now I forgot what the question was. But super, super exciting. So where can people find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. It's Dr. Marisol Capellan. And I also do posting in Instagram, but that's in Spanish. So my English content is usually on LinkedIn, but I do post bilingual content. So you may find an English post right next to a Spanish post.
How does that work for you? I was just talking to somebody earlier who's bilingual, and the uncertainty of like how to post. Are you just kind of like whatever you feel like, or do you have a system that you go by?
The thing is that I have two different audiences, and that is tough to manage because usually you have one audience, one niche, and you want to feed content to the audience and solve that particular problem. But I am working with two audiences at the same time, and what I do is that I have a certain content that is for that audience and that need, and I have a certain content in English, and I just post there because some of my followers are bilingual, but people that follow me, they know that if I'm posting in Spanish, I'm usually posting about finding yourself, personal development, and all that great thing about personal transformation. If I'm posting in English, I'm posting about, coaching and leadership and more of the corporate. I usually post in English for corporate, and I post in Spanish for everyone, personal transformation. So I do kind of have a combination of those things.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been in this arena, by the way, personal development arena?
So personal development arena, I started, I would say, I don't know, 7 years ago. I started 7 years ago. I started with a Facebook page, and I was doing live videos every single day for a few months, and then that was in Spanish, and I was able to get like 40,000 followers in Facebook, and then I lost the page. And I was like, I'm done with social media.
Are you serious?
I lost the page, and Facebook never recovered my page. So that was in Spanish, right? And I said to myself, you know what? I do have a following in LinkedIn. So I started posting content in English. But now that I'm an entrepreneur full time, I'm going to start posting more. But yes, I started in Spanish doing about personal transformation, talking about my own transformation, my own life lessons, and going through my own, development as a person. And then when I went and did my master's degree in leadership, and then I did my doctoral degree, and I started working, teaching at a university, I started posting about the content that, I was discovering, teaching, training other people. So all of that content, I started teaching a little bit of that. So I started getting two audiences at the same time, but in two different channels, and now trying to merge both of them in LinkedIn.
I love it. I love LinkedIn. It's becoming
I
one
like
of my
LinkedIn.
favorites.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is great. Yeah, you meet so many great people. I met so many people on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
What's one of your big dreams for your business?
My big dream for my business actually is to complete a retreat in June 2023. My dream is to go do a retreat, hopefully in Punta Cana. Well, not hopefully, it's happening, but I'm just very excited about it. So in Punta Cana, in Dominican Republic. So my dream is to get 30 women to sign up and do a whole personal transformation, leadership transformation training in Punta Cana next year. I'm excited. I love traveling. So this for me is great because I get to use my skills as a coach, my skills as a trainer, and then my passion, which is traveling. So sometimes you have to merge like what is it that you really like, put it into one package, and then work doesn't feel like work. You're actually enjoying the whole adventure.
Do you have a place that you're renting out? How are you doing that?
Oh, I've done it in different ways. So I've done it in villas, and sometimes I do it in resorts. So I've done it in the DR, and I'm actually going to Mexico tomorrow. I have like a whole training that I'm doing there from another company. But yes, I've done it in different segments. So, but for this one, it will probably be in a resort because it's Punta Cana. So if you go to other areas in the Dominican Republic, then it changes. If you go to Samana, I prefer a villa for the whole training. If you go to Punta Cana, I do prefer a resort. So it depends. It depends as the months, as the time passes. I will see what's the best option for June. I'll probably have it all ready to sell in January after the book launches. So I'm excited for that.
Awesome. Absolutely. I love that. Well, it was so great having you on. Thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with us. Any closing thoughts or words before we wrap things up here?
So it was so great to talk to you. This is amazing. Love this space. Any closing thoughts that I have is that you can be multi-passionate. I will say that because sometimes when I'm coaching people, they tell me, well, I don't know if it's right that I have a passion for this and a passion for that and a passion for three things at the same time. I mean, like, I understand people tell you all the time that you have to pick one thing, and it's good to become an expert in that one thing. But at the same time, if you are a different person who likes to do different things at the same time, I've done it. I've grown two audiences at the same time, one in English and one in Spanish. And I will say, people that are hesitant about doing things your way, sometimes you just have to try it out and see if it works. Maybe your way is the first way that people are going to look at, and then try to emulate what you did before. So I will say, if you think of your life, that your life should be a different way, your work, your business, your audience building, whatever you're doing, you have a particular idea that you want to do that is not conventional. If you're not hurting anybody, go do it. And don't be so afraid of change. I will say that's my last thought for the day.
I love it. And I'm very much aligned with that. I think that I've definitely geared away from, not that I don't have a niche, I do have a niche, but I have lots of sub niches.
I have something.
Yeah, I do. I have several things that I'm interested in, several things that I appreciate, and people that I love connecting with and talking to and coaching. So and I make it work.
You can make it work. I mean,
Yeah.
if you like it, that's the most important thing, that you like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because your audience is out there.
100%. Definitely.
Yes.
Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. I appreciate it. For anyone who's listening live or on the replay, make sure you reach out. Let us know where you are so we can send you some love. If you resonated with Dr. Marisol and all of the awesome things that she shared today, make sure you reach out to her. Her Instagram handle is actually right above her head area. And you can also find her on LinkedIn. If that's pretty much about it. So thank you so much for joining us here on Her Version. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share, I've struggled to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others.